Hello, welcome to my podcast. My name is Piper Merrill. This is called Behavioral Brilliance. I'm a pediatric nurse practitioner. I have 30 years experience in pediatrics. And my passion for the podcast is really helping parents teach mental and emotional health to their children. And let's start young, right? So I think my other passion would be that this podcast would help each parent look at their own adverse childhood events that maybe formed insecurities, fears, and anxieties in them, and let's heal those so we don't pass them on to our children. The anxiety, the fear, the insecurities, how that affected us. Because our mental and emotional health is really how we view life situations, how that affects us, how we view ourselves, and how that affects our relationships, the relationship between a child and a parent, relationships of coworkers. Life is all about relationships. So that's my premise, is that I really want us to get healed, and we will learn emotional and mental health is not a one-time event, right? It's a journey. And so today I have the privilege of interviewing a former patient of mine, Abigail. And I'm going to have her. We actually did an interview with Dallas Morning News about 4 or 5 months ago. And we just talked through her journey of getting well. So I'll let her explain her journey. Hello, Abigail. So glad to have you. And thank you for being willing to come on the podcast. It's a little daunting sometimes to share our journey of health and wellness, and I commend you for the courage that it takes to come on and just share your life journey. So we'll just make this very casual, and you just start where you want to. Let's say this. I'll say, let's start what was going on in your life when you started looking for help and when me and you met in my office?
So when I first came to see you, I was self-harming. I felt like I had lost my identity. I was getting ready to graduate and looking out into that unknown future. I was scared. And I kind of knew everything I wanted to do. I knew everything that I liked and enjoyed and was good at while I was in high school. But looking outside of that, I wasn't sure. In high school, I was super involved with the band, and that filled my identity. That's who I thought I was, and it was my whole world. So when I lost that, I lost control of everything, and I quickly spiraled, and I was numb. And so when I saw you, I was at that point of just being numb. I didn't really feel, and like you said, I just had no hope for the future. I just didn't know what it looked like, and I didn't know if I could get there.
That's so good. I do remember that vividly. I remember trying to when you came to see me, you really could not even look me in the eyes to really talk about your emotions. You had never really, to my understanding, had talked about feeling sad, depressed, anxious, fearful. To put words to your emotions, I think, felt very painful. Would you agree?
Yes, and that wasn't something that I was willing to open up to people about. So when people were asking me, how are you feeling? What's going on? What's causing this? That's why I'm going to not look you in the eye. That's why I'm going to avoid you. I'm going to avoid that conversation, because to me, that was so private. That was something that no one got to see. I wasn't going to let anyone in to see those emotions and to help me through them.
And what do you think was your thinking on, what if I let them in? What if I tell them what I'm feeling? What did that make you think or feel?
I never wanted to be responsible for someone worrying about me. And if they knew the way I was feeling, I knew people were going to be concerned. I knew they were going to come in and try and help. They were going to take time from their day, take from their energy to try and fill me up. And I didn't want to feel like a burden that I was taking from them. I had to be the giver, always.
Wow, that's such great insight. So what did this moment of kind of realization of, I'm not doing well, I believe at that point you had written a note of suicide, and your band teacher found this. Is that correct?
So when I first saw you, I hadn't written that note yet. I was kind of just spiraling, and I was sort of receiving help for my mental health struggles, but it wasn't really going anywhere. It was a few weeks later that I wrote that suicide note and shared it with my band director the next day. That was really the only person who I would let in. And then he shared that with the crisis counselor, and I got sent back to get more help. That's when I saw you again.
So what do you think was the point that made you realize I need help and I need to let people in?
The point I realized that I really needed help was when after I had written the suicide note and my parents found out about it. And I will never forget the moment I was sitting with my mom in the car and she read the note out loud to me and to my dad, who she was on the phone with. And that broke me. That broke the iron cast, really, that was around my heart. And I realized I need help. And they know it. And there's no hiding it from them anymore. They can see it. And they know the full depth of it. So I'm not keeping them from anything. I'm not helping them by keeping this from them. And I think from that point, I was just like, you know what? I know I need the help, but I don't know how to get it. And if you want to help me now, because I know you do, my parents, then I'm going to let you. I let down my walls, I think, in that moment. And I did what they wanted me to do. And they wanted me to get help, so I complied, finally.
That's amazing. That takes incredible courage for someone who's always been in control, been in a leadership role, and always felt like people looked up to you. And for you to be able to be honest, you helped so many people by just being courageous enough to say, I need help, and I can't do this on my own. So through this journey, what are some of the revelations that you've had? I think you shared with me when we talked, your parents went through a divorce when you were young, and you found that very challenging. And I think what are some of the revelations that you discovered about yourself and how you responded to things that happened to you?
Yeah, so in my journey of trying to get better, I was thinking about, where did this all start? And the best way I can explain it is when my parents got divorced, and especially the way I saw it affect my dad, I felt like I needed to be strong for him. And I think that's when I started that behavior of put the walls up. If I need help, I'm going to figure it out on my own. I'm here to help others. And I don't need others to help me. And I think that was a behavior, and it worked for a time. Right. And I kept applying it to every situation until it became too much and it wasn't working anymore. But by that point, I had lost control of it. And it wasn't working. And then I really needed help. And I wasn't able to ask for it.
And you also told me something that I thought is very valuable for parents to understand is when Abigail went to her parents, it was never a blame, your fault that I responded this way, your fault that I interpreted my life situation. Things do happen to us that do feel unfair, and they are hurtful. But how we respond is really a component of our temperament and our ability at that moment, your maturity level. You were young, you were 5. And so, yes, the great thing was her parents, when she started bringing this situation to them, I do commend them, and they both took ownership and responsibility for it. You're absolutely right. During the divorce, that was hard. We kind of lost our way in life. We weren't really managing our life mentally and emotionally in a healthy way, which then helped Abigail to now form a relationship with both her parents. And it's brought healing to the whole family. Now, that's taken a lot of hard work and a lot of hard conversations. But Abigail, share maybe some of the hard conversations maybe that you had with your parents.
Yes, so I remember my parents they would spend hours on the phone talking, where did this start? How did we play a role in this? And then they came to me and they were like, I'm sorry for the things that I've done. I'm sorry for the way the divorce went. And there was a lot of healing in that, especially for my relationship with my mom, because I put a lot of blame on her for the divorce. And for her to come to me and acknowledge that it affected me in a harmful way, to open up and apologize for it. And then with my dad, for him to actually sit down with me and say, I know you've blamed your mom for the divorce for so many years and you have so much anger toward her because of this, but I drove your mom to act the way that she did. It wasn't just her. Your mom did not break up this family. We both did. It took both of us. And then there was a lot of healing with my dad. And because of what he said, even more healing with my mom. It went both ways during that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yes, I do commend your parents. We're all going to make mistakes. We're human parents. It's hard parenting and trying to manage our own emotions and mental health. And then bring up kids as well. It's just challenging. So I commend that. So I would ask Abigail, what would you say to a teenager who is self-harming, cutting? What do you think they're trying to achieve? Or I guess you can't really speak for others. What do you think you were trying to achieve in the cutting and self-harming?
I think the physical act of cutting was a way to achieve feeling. Because like I said, I felt numb. And part of that was a physical feeling, right? So in the moment, I felt something. But then later on, there's a cut there. People can see that. And I think part of me, even though I covered it up, part of me wanted someone to see it and ask, what is wrong? What is going on? Can I help you? I think part of that was a cry for help. Even if when they did approach me, I would put the walls up. I don't need your help. But I think deep down, I always really did. I always wanted someone to address it and point it out and do the hard work of saying, I know that you're angry at me for bringing this up. I know you're angry at me for asking you what's wrong and getting you help, but I know it's what you need. And even if you're angry at me right now, you're going to thank me later. And it's true, because I was angry when people would bring it up and ask, what's that cut on your arm? What's that bruise on your arm? But looking back on it now, I know I would do the same if I saw someone else who had been visibly self-harming.
Yes.
That they might be angry at me in the moment, but they are going to be so thankful and that truly they want that help.
That's so powerful, so powerful. Yeah, so even when we're trying to offer help to others, when they're angry, that doesn't really mean we should back off. It really means that's a normal reaction when someone feels out of control. I think that's normal to get angry. So, yes, thank you for sharing that. So here's another situation. What would you say to a teenager who has a challenging, unhealthy home environment? What could they do, or what could you have maybe done that would have helped you instead of walling off and taking all that responsibility on yourself? What would you recommend or for a child?
Yeah, I think it depends on the type of environment that home is. And if home is an unhealthy environment, it depends, how is that? Is it unhealthy because of your parents and maybe there's emotional abuse or physical abuse and they're not a safe person for you to open up to about these feelings that you're having, then I think that it's important to find an adult outside of home, maybe at school, maybe at church, maybe in some other organization. Find an adult who you can trust and be honest with them and open up. And then if the home environment is unhealthy, but you can still open up to your parents, I think that's where you should start. If there is a way to talk to your parents about it, I think that's the most important place to start, just because they they're going to want to help you.
Yes, very good. They love you. That's so good. That's really good. And then what would you say? What do you do now? So I will say she's 19 now. She's aged out of my practice, and she is doing amazing. She got married, I think, a year ago, right? Or in January. Mm-hmm. She's married. And where would you say you are now in life?
I would say I'm in a very healthy place in my life. I have a positive outlook on the future, and then I also look back on the past, and I'm thankful for what I learned, and I'm thankful for the growth I've had. And I'm never going to forget the place that I was in. When I was at my lowest, I'm not going to forget that. And I'm going to use that to, keep making good choices and to keep practicing healthy behaviors that are going to make a better future for me. So these behaviors that I struggled with, and when I went through and got help, those behaviors aren't gone. I still struggle with those, but I know how to manage them. I know how to work on them. I know how to identify them in the early stages. If I'm becoming controlling, or if my anger is getting out of control, I can identify that early on. If there's a setting that triggers that anger, I'm going to set myself up for success. So, for example, one of the classes I'm taking in college right now, every time I do that class's work, I get frustrated, and it leads to anger, and I don't want that to get out of control. So early on, before I start that work, I'm going to make sure I have what I need. Am I in a comfortable environment? Am I hungry? If I am, eat a snack. Are the chores taken care of? Am I going to think about that while I'm doing my homework? So I'm going to get rid of those distractions that are going to be harmful or potentially could be harmful, so that I go into doing that homework with everything's taken care of. I have what I need. Now I can sit here and focus and do my work, right? So when I do start to get frustrated, I'm not going to get frustrated at my work, and then also I'm hungry. Also the dishes need to be done. Also this, also this, also this. It's just I'm frustrated with my homework right now. I'm going to take a step away from it. I'm going to take a break for 5 minutes. So it's important that I set that up. And then another thing is creating a routine for myself. I need to have that structure every single day. So if my routine gets messed up, I'm going to know, hey, I didn't do this today. I didn't go through my morning routine or my night routine the way I normally would. So I just need to be careful. I need to give myself grace today and be patient with myself. And I need to pay attention to the way I'm feeling, and just pay attention to it so it doesn't spiral and get out of control.
That's amazing. You're amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing. I love to see where she's at now from when she first came in. And you're absolutely right. Mental health, like I said, I think in the beginning, it's not a one-stop event, right? It is learning. It's learning about ourselves. It's evaluating. This is my behavior. Where's that coming from? What created that? What's my thinking patterns that are creating the anxiety or fear? And then I'm acting on it, right? So it is, I love this saying, success is in the daily habits. That came from Terry Savelle voice. She said that, and I think that's so true. It's learning what works best for me, not allowing the feelings to escalate that then now I'm angry. And so I just want to thank you, Abigail, so much for being willing to come on and to share your journey of health. And I think it's only the beginning. Mm-hmm. She is in college now, and she actually changed her major to childhood development, right?
Yes, childhood education.
Childhood education, and I love that. She'll be great at that. So thank you again so much. And viewers, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I hope it was helpful for you. And parents, if you have kids, teenagers that are self-harming, go to your provider and make sure you get them seen, even if they get angry at that. I think many times we get angry because we know we need help, but it feels so vulnerable. We attach shame to it, vulnerability, things that just uncomfortable feelings are there. So I encourage you to get help. Thank you so much. Have a great day.